brain. What else we got? Where else does theory come from? What makes theory?
Someone being unfair.
Huh?
Someone being potentially unfair.
Okay, fairness. All right. Let's push that one a little bit more. All right? Because one could say that saying theory might be the same as saying fairness in some instances. All right? So, fairness, though, what's like fairness related to? Why do things have to be fair?
Education.
Education. All right, I'm going to make that number 3, though. All right. Fairness. Let's call fairness competition. All right. Education. Let's keep it going. Anybody else got any other ideas? Let's call T a theory argument. All right. T's kind of a theory argument because T's not about like, you know, the results of the plan or anything. Where's T come from?
The resolution.
The resolution. Here's what I'm going to change colors for that one. Just going to shorten that to res with a Z because I'm cool. What else? All right, so we got resolution, we got the brain, we have the fairness, competition, we have education. All right, I'm going to propose some others. All right, because you all are not very creative. All right, 5. I'm going to say is tradition. This is how we've done it. Let's keep doing it that way. What are some others, maybe? Anything else? It's a pretty good list for now. Why do you think that the resolution is in blue and everything else is in red?
Because everything stems from the resolution. Like all of those things.
No, not the brain.
No. Just say it.
All right, all of them seem opinionated except the resolution.
Cool. Yeah, let's go over that. I think, all right, and not everyone agrees, all right, that what's important with the resolution compared to those other things is that the resolution is the only one of those things on this list that doesn't change from round to round. Resolution, always the same. All right? Changes from year to year, but from round to round, always a resolution. What other things don't change in debates? Blue, meaning no change. What else doesn't change other than the resolution?
Speaking times.
Cool. So, res. Speech times. What else?
What?
Huh?
Like the order of the speeches.
Speech order. Let's see. Is every debate, is there a plan in every debate? Nah, not anymore. Used to be, not anymore. 4 days ago, and ruin that. Let's see, what else?
There's an F and an A.
Yeah, I mean, really?
Arguably.
What makes the
that's
AF
not
AF? I would say that the only reason that they're AF is because, like, they go first. Aside from that, I mean, like, it's
There's
just a word we
winner and a
use.
loser?
I mean, because, like, when there's not a plan, how are they affirming? Ooh, winning and losing. I like that. I hadn't even thought of that one. That's good. Now, typically, or in the past rather, that's the opposite of typically. In the past, we've had like double win, double loss, like these stupid normativity K debates from like the mid-90s and stuff like that. Now every tournament invitation says every round has to have one winner and one loser and 4 speaker points and all that stuff and everything. So we don't do that so much. So there's always a winner and a loser. Now that's not like grounded in like some sort of like metaphysical permanence or anything, but tournament invite says there has to be, so I think it's good, it's safe enough, same with the res, right? Doesn't like have to be by like word of God, but by word of tournament usually. So, Here's a question. And hopefully y'all are starting to figure out what I'm kind of getting to here. The difference between, oddly enough, seems to me like red is usually the impact argument to theory. All right? Fairness, competition, education, honestly, tradition is usually well, you would change tradition, and tradition's tradition, so why would you change tradition? Right? That's what we call circular argument or tautology, but frankly, a lot of theory debates come down to that. Now you got your blue. Those aren't really impacts to theory. But let's call these the grounds of theory arguments. All right? Because I think in order to make any good argument, you got to have a reason for it. It's got to have something it's based in. All right? So, what's an example? All right, now that's going to take 7 minutes for y'all to think about it. How many of you have ever been debating and have either made or heard the argument on topicality? The 2AC says counterinterpretation only our affirmative is topical. Or just one, really? Has that died on its own? Is today?
That's a good
is today,
thing.
all right, everybody, we're done. All right. Apps often say that, right? Because they'll be like, well, if you're just going for limits, counterinterpret only ARF is topical. Smallest limit there is. Boom. Right? What is that based in? What's the origin of that interpretation? Does it have any? No, it's stupid. All right? It was highly effective for about 7 minutes at one tournament once. All right, and everyone else figured out, like, hey, wait a minute, man. Our interpretation has some definitions. You know? We base them on those. And then the world was like, oh yeah, that's probably good. All right? So, you gotta have something it's built into. All right? Especially on topicality debates, obviously, because there's words and they have to be interpreted and all that nonsense, right? But on theory debates, though, like, what is conditionality based on? What's the ground for that? It's a trick question.
There aren't any.
Right. Wrong. There typically aren't. All right? Now, tonight, I'm going to put up on my lab's blog, if Sarah hasn't already yet put a link to it up, a link or a PDF of what I think is the one and only thing you probably ever need to read if you want to get really awesome at debating conditionality. All right, and that's an article that Roger Solt wrote back in 2003. It's called The Case for Logical Limited Conditionality. You can just Google it. It's on the Wake DRG website, but I'll make one that's a little bit prettier and like says Mean Green Workshops on it, and therefore steals intellectual property. But I got my MA at Wake, so I can do that. This one, to me, is the gospel, and I honestly think that there's really no arguing with it. It's pretty tough to argue that it's beyond reason or anything like that. But here's the thing, all right? There are, I think, some other places that you could maybe ground theory arguments, all right? Maybe not in the resolution necessarily, and not just saying things like education, all right, which is sort of an empty signifier in a lot of debates, right? Education is sort of like, well, yeah, you know, I mean, education's probably inevitable. You know, some's better, some's worse, but it kind of happens. So, what are some things, and I'm gonna, I have previewed one of the words, what are some other blue things we could make theory debates out of? All right? How about, all right, let's start here. How about logic? How about it has to make sense? All right? We can't make up stupid rules that don't make any sense just because they'd be more fair. All right? We could, if we wanted to promote fairness over everything else and create a perfectly balanced debate activity, say affirmatives win all odd-numbered rounds and negatives win all even-numbered rounds, and there will always be an even number of rounds at all tournaments. ties would be broken on speaker points. All right? Then everybody would go 4-4. It would be awesome. Right? But it'd be fair. Wouldn't it? All right? So your fairness impact, not so good. How about education? All right? What kind of theory interpretations for debate can we come up with that would promote education? All right, try and think of a really stupid one. Huh? Everybody quit and go read. All right? Leave, pick up a book. Learn at your own pace. You know? Things like that. There's plenty of things. Now, logic, on the other hand, logic might have a little bit of something to it, though. Because logic says it's gotta make sense. All right? The presumption being that there are some inviolable rules of logic. The most important one, in fact, probably the only one, is non-contradiction. All right? If you have a rule that says things cannot be true and untrue at the same time, no statement can be both true and untrue at the same time. From there, if you're to believe Aristotle and sort of all analytic philosophy that came after it, you can pretty much describe the whole world after that. You can pretty much do everything, so long as that's true. Now, some people think non-contradiction isn't true, like Zizek's big on knocking on it in his new book and everything. I still don't understand why he doesn't, what kind of answer he has to. It cannot at the same time be both raining and not raining in the same place. You know, but hey. Logic's not too bad. Who's heard of the logical policymaker? Tell me about it.
The logical policymaker, the person that is able to easily discern between a good idea and a bad idea, and do multiple things at the same time without, getting flustered over any one bad decision. Specifically in politics, a person is able to pass a plan and stop the world from ending by passing a free trade agreement, perhaps.
All right, not too bad. Where's some other places that a logical policymaker might matter?
Logical policymakers don't take into consideration philosophy.
Don't what?
They don't take into consideration philosophy.
Okay, yeah, maybe they don't. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they should. You know. The other thing that they don't do is force themselves into stupid decisions. All right? For instance, let's say Shelby proposes an affirmative to build high-speed rail between San Francisco and Los Angeles. All right? The status quo does not build high-speed rail. I, on the other hand, say, no. Build high-speed rail from Oakland to Los Angeles. All right? But I also win a dissent that says building any high-speed rail would cause extinction of the human race. All right? Would a logical policymaker say, well, here's the thing. Shelby proposed a bill. And then Josh proposed a second bill. So now we have to choose between one of those two. That's kind of dumb, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, maybe doing none of the above is a good option. Maybe voting negative to just keep on with the status quo and it's not going extinct is a good option. Maybe one could argue that the status quo, here's the part you want to write down, the status quo is always a logical option. Therein, we have now discovered the actual argument that underlies conditionality, and hence the rise of debates over counterplan status. The fact that no one in their right mind would ever in a million years purposefully make Armageddon ensue because someone proposed something else, and therefore not doing anything was no longer an option. Now, when I say it that way, does conditionality sound bad?
No.
Sounds kind of right, doesn't it?
Yep.
Cool. So, do we want to do the history and like hypothesis testing and all that stuff and everything, or no? No, we'll skip that. We'll just take policy debate as a given. All right. Yeah. There's a whole history why debate came to this and why it works the way it does. It happened in the 70s and 80s, probably before any of you were born. It involved two people, one of whom's dead and the other one's who retired, so don't worry about it. If we have extra time at the end, I'll tell the story.
We have Monday.
Huh?
We have another day.
Like 5 hours on Monday for there.
Are you?
What?
I mean, I'm pretty much like out of stuff, and I don't really know. I don't think there's an argument with any of what I just said. You know, it's just like.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Is this what he's gonna end out?
yeah.
All right, so what are the different types of statuses or statuses that a counterplan can or critique can have? 3. Okay, conditionality.
Dispositional,
Dispositionality.
unconditional.
Unconditional. Who knows what unconditionality means?
You can't
Go for
You
it.
have to go for it.
No matter what.
Yeah.
There's an exception. What's the exception?
If after the round, like, they always go for the status quo.
Oh, no, that is not the exception. What is the exception? If it's unconditional, you have to go for the counterplan /K or topicality.
Oh, like how?
Because it comes before everything else, right? So arguably, the debate shouldn't have happened if the team's on top. So unconditionality means that you have to go for the position unless you're going for a procedural, like theoretical thing like topicality. That's an independent voting issue separate from like the actual policy ramifications. Dispositionality. What's dispositionality?
Keep it under a certain.
It's not real.
It's not real. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Right.
Like does something specific, like straight turns.
What is okay? So if you straight turn the argument, they have to go for it. Is the definition of what dispositionality means? What does it mean to straight turn a counterplan?
You straight turn the
Yeah, you non-unique.
So can you say stuff on the counterplan? Can you say like permutation? Do you vote? No. Can you say the counterplan causes spending in California because it's a 50 states counterplan and that would collapse Californian economy and read the dissent against the counterplan?
No, because California is a tax system.
You can't read a dissent against the counterplan?
Oh no, yeah, you can. I just
Yeah.
Okay. Can you read solvency deficits against the counterplan? Right, because solvency deficits are dissats to the counterplan. So the only thing you can't do is the permutation argument because they could concede that as defense, arguably with a straight turn. Why does it make sense to say that dispositionality is the same thing as conditionality? Can anybody think of a logical argument that would mean dispositionality is functionally the same thing as conditionality?
Because pretty much every choice C block has a firm. There will like always be defense.
Close. Okay. Yeah.
More like to get out of the offense, you have to concede the defense, so.
Yeah, you're not probably gonna drop something with a straight turn anyway.
Right, well, kind of sort of along that lines, a lot of counterplan texts, the way that they're written, you have to permute it, right? The way that counterplan texts are written, you can have multiple sentences, multiple planks, and so the negative can try and have a more shifty counterplan, more cheating counterplan. They can add things to the counterplan to force you to make a permutation. Those would be called artificial net benefits, right? If you have an advantage to the counterplan that the AF doesn't solve, that would require the affirmative to make a permutation to solve for, that would be a risk. If they didn't make that permutation because they wanted to straight turn the counterplan, they would not be able to solve for that artificial net benefit. It just is artificial because it's an advantage to the counterplan and not a disadvantage to the AF. That's what it means to say artificial net benefit.
So suppose you had a plank in your counterplan that said, you know, feed Africa is the classic example, right? So if you did your whole counterplan and then you also fed Africa and you were like, Therefore, we prevent 300 million deaths a year from famine. It's a little bit much, but let's just roll with it, all right? And then, so you fed every starving person. Let's just feed everyone in the world, actually. I'm kind of picking on Africa here, and that's not cool. So we're going to feed everyone in the whole world that's hungry. And we're going to do the counter plan. But we're running a dispo, so if you want to make us go for it, all right, you had better hope your affirmative outweighs feeding Africa. All right? So it's kind of easy to sort of cheat with dispo then, right? Also, what is the basis for dispositionality? What's it built on? It's a fairness thing, right?
Oh. That was a number.
Yeah, all right? It's a fairness thing. And as we've already demonstrated, fairness is not necessarily a good basis for something, is it? Right? Because there's lots of dumb ways to make things fair, but they remain dumb. All right, also, I'll throw something else out there for you. Shelby's definition of dispositionality is but one among many.
It's true.
All right, for instance, when I was growing up, you know, back before cars, dispositionality, if you made a solvency deficit argument, that was defense. So you couldn't go, you could, you know, like they could kick the counter plan then. Theory was defense, aside, unless it was dispo bad, in which case then that's not theory, right? So people kind of made it up as they went along, and like there would be like a good minute of the cross-ex of the 1NC would be covered with just what do you mean when you say dispositionality. And then you'd have to judge debates that would be like the neg would try to kick the CP, and then the AF would be like, no, but we didn't read defense. They'd be like, yes, you did. You're at a solid deficit. They'd be like, that's not defense. And then there would be a debate about that. That's a terrible debate to judge. It's awful. It's like the worst ever. I don't have to do those anymore because I don't think anybody's read a dispositional counter plan in at least like 4 years. And you know why?
Because it's the same thing as conditionality.
Exactly. Because there's no reason why dispo is good that conditionality isn't. All right, so I think dispo has been covered sufficiently for the rest of time.
Has anybody ever heard the phrase counter interpretation or interpretation dispositionality?
Yeah.
Or heard an interpretation on a theory debate?
Yeah. It's like when they say condo bad, you could have run your like
Yeah.
however many conditional advocacies dispositionally solves back all your options.
Yeah. And so you would answer that argument by using the discussion we just had. So this is useful not just if you're answering a dispositional counterplan, but also if you're the negative and they say that their interpretation is that dispositionality would solve back education arguments because you could strategically orient your 2AC to straight turn the counterplan. You can't strategically orient your 2AC to straight turn the counterplan because of all the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah, because you're unstrategically orienting your 2AC to straight turn the counter
And
plan.
wasting all of cross-ex to figure out what it means to straight turn the counterplan.
Yeah, and the reason you're unstrategically orienting your 2AC to straight turn the counter plan is because you're not making perms. All right? You can't make a permutation. That's stupid. You know, like the AF's, literally the AF's answer to conditionality in this instance is like, look, you could totally run your counter plans in a way that sucks for us. So you should lose. What? No. No, that makes no sense at all. Nobody reads things dispo anymore, and when they use the word, it's ridiculous. Can we be done with dispo? We're done with
I
dispo.
think we're done.
Let us never mention the word again. It is shameful. Bring much shame on your family. All right? So, I guess we're stuck with unconditionality and conditionality then. And we said that the basis for conditionality is this notion that the status quo should always be an option. All right? So, the neg can read a counter plan, and if they want to, they can kick it and they can go for the status quo. Is that all they can do? What else can they do? I guess they can go for T. Yeah.
Go for multiple worlds.
Say what?
They can go for multiple worlds.
They can go for well, we already have one. We got 2 worlds already. We're into the multiple world. Yeah, blew your mind, didn't I?
Inception.
Yeah.
World within the world, inside the world.
Exactly. Seriously, watch The Wedding Ring. I don't know how many times I have to tell people this. That's all you need to do to figure that movie out. All right. Yeah, if he's wearing the ring, it's a dream. If he's not, it's real life.
Like 4 times.
Yeah.
Just took like what I've been trying to guess for like ever. And just...
Oh, if you want to spend 2 hours hearing about it, go ask Herndon. Sarah, oh yeah, Herndon will tell you all about it. No, you can run more than 1 counter plan. Or you could run 2 counter plans at K-all.
Or you could have a counter plan with 5 different sentences in it, right?
Yeah, and you could go for any of those in any combination. You could kick individual planks of the counter plan. Hell, let's read 3 of those counter plans. Let's make one of them a consultation counter plan. Let's make another one of those a conditioning counter plan. All right?
Oh, that's confusing.
All right? And then if you read 2 more, then it would sound like your average final round at the NDT. The NDT is always a mess in the finals. It's always the worst round of the year. Guaranteed.
What?
Yeah, well, because the AF busts out the AF they've been waiting, the entire year to read. All right, and nobody's prepared
So
for
then every
something.
generic counter plan you can think of,
And then so the
process,
neg-
condition, everything.
Yeah, the neg just unloads everything. Don't forget the reverse condition either.
Oh, yeah.
This is when we premiered at Wake in 2009, when we literally just violated any semblance of reasonability on theory. We'll deal with that later. The reverse condition is a totally underutilized weapon because it's the worst cheating on earth, but it's totally.
Counter plans are pretty bad on their own.
Say what?
Is the condition counter plans on their own are pretty bad.
But the reverse condition is unless you do the plan, we'll do something bad.
What about Vito Cheeto?
Huh?
What about Vito Cheeto?
I think the name covers that one. Yeah, I think that handles it. So you can do lots of different worlds, right? You could read 5 counter plans. Some of them have multiple planks. There could be all these different worlds and stuff like that. And now we're getting into the meat of the discussion here, right? Well, the rest of this has sort of just been appetizers, because I don't think there's anything up until here that anybody who has a reasonable view of debate theory disagrees with. All right, up until now, this all makes sense. So let's start talking about conditionality now. All right, and whether it is or isn't fair. I think, personally, all right, there's an easy way to break this down. And the way that I would break it down is this, all right? On one side of the equation, I would have people that like the logic stuff. We'll call them the neg. All right?
It's a good thing I'm a 2A. We'll balance each other.
Yeah. Then you have the people who like the fairness stuff. We'll call them the AF. Until it comes to the disad, in which case they switch sides. Then all of a sudden the AF thinks things need to be real logical, and the neg is just like, your logic stuff is dumb, we don't get disads anymore. We'll cover that in a couple more days though, after 7 more hours of this. Exactly, we're gonna need some extra memory cards for that camera. No, we're gonna take some time, y'all are gonna write blocks and stuff, so it's all good. Ish. So, you've got your logic people and you've got your fairness people. All right? And if you ask me, which you sort of did, because you got assigned to this room, I think the whole conditionality debate at the end of the day boils down to which one of those is more important. All right? And which matters more. If having a form of debate that makes sense is more important, or having a form of debate that is fundamentally fair is more important. All right? Now, let's get back to our whole ground question. All right? That raises another interesting question, and this is one that I think you need to do, and I think Dan previewed this very well and repeatedly, and I'm going to kill every single one of you if not one of you can think of this. What is the question, then, that underlies all of this?
Why do we debate?
Yes! Good. You all live. Right? Why do we debate? What's the point of debating? So let's throw some answers out there. Somebody take notes on this stuff too. I nominate George. Because you take notes on everything. All right? Why do we debate? Let's get some reasons out there. Come on. I think we could have made a better list than we did earlier today in lecture. Huh?
Education.
Education is reason number one.
Trolling.
What?
Trolling.
Trolling is not going on the list. Number two, what is another one?
To win is fun.
Fun. How about fun?
Yeah.
Fun. Fun. All right, what are some other reasons?
Like to win.
Friends.
Community.
Community. Community is not a bad one.
Like to win.
All right, how about just like, can't we come up with like, that's like these are all bad reasons.
Empowerment.
Huh? Empowerment. All right? Now that could be education, but I think that's a little bit better than education. Maybe. Right? You know, because I think that goes a little bit deeper than the whole knowledge. Empowerment is a good one you could throw out there. All right, what are some other reasons you could have? What are some reasons to do stuff? Because I felt like it?
Yeah.
Because mom and dad forced me to go to a debate practice when I was in 10th grade, and my life has been cursed with this activity ever since. Because that's how it happened for me. Yeah, I broke my ankle, so I couldn't play football the rest of the semester. So they're like, why don't you go to a debate practice? And I was like, nope. I would like to meet women at some point. Not like it was happening a bunch already. All right, let's be honest. But you know, I held out hope at some point that I was actually going to get good at football. But you know, and then so the next day I didn't really have anything else to do, so I went back. Honest truth, there was kind of like a cute girl that I sort of had a crush on that was there too, and so I kind of stuck around for a couple more weeks, and then it turned out I was good at it. And now it's a career. That happened. So, and guess what? It happened to every last one of you too. Because I don't have anything good to do in my summer. I'm old. You all do. And you're just like, you know what? I'm going to just give away a month of it. Why not? You have no excuse. I have one, at least. They're paying me. All right. How about empowerment? All right. Education. What about just like justice, like social justice or something? That could be a reason to do debate. It could be a means towards a better end of social justice or something, right? But I think it's important not to treat debate as an end in itself in a lot of theory debates, all right? Because that's, first of all, it's just bad argument, all right? Debate's not an end in itself, right? It has other ends. So a lot of theory debates, you can win them very, very easily by proposing a different end, all right? Everyone in debate these days loves to talk about the project teams, right? The ones that don't read plans and just talk about like race or something like that and everything. You know how they win every single debate that they win?
Like confusing people?
No, their arguments couldn't be less simple.
They just like make one claim, and that's the only claim they make.
Yeah, and they make a claim that's really hard to answer, and that's like, all of your education and everything is absolutely no good if only white people get it. All right? So maybe social justice is more important. And as a result, maybe we should do our things. Now, what perplexes me is that no one ever bothers making a solvency argument like, hey, maybe your way doesn't lead to social justice. Maybe our way gets there better. You know? That wouldn't. But they always just win because they just propose a different end to debate. All right? And the reason I put that out there is that there's nothing different between that and conditionality. All right? There's nothing different in any of those debates. There's nothing different between that and T and conditionality. There's nothing different between that and conditionality and fiat questions or anything. All they are questions about a way to reach a particular end. And what is ultimately up for the end, right, rather up for debate rather, is what that end is. And more than that, then of course, even if you can agree on the end, let's say the end is education, which up until very recently has been the only end that's been debated about in any debate theory stuff, all right? The question becomes, and here's an even better debate than the end, how do you get there? What do you do to get to that end? So we've got a list of ends. And what we're going to do is spend a bunch of time talking about different ways to get there and how different people get there in different ways. What gets you there? How does it work? And whatnot. So, I think maybe it's time for us to put together the very first preliminary versions based on, and you can go ahead and use whatever you have on your computers. This is the one time I think we're going to say back files are okay. All right? How many of you are 2As? 2As, get your hands up. How many 2Ns we got? It's not perfectly. Is there a 2A who would be willing to join the 2N team for a little? You would?
Yeah.
I think that'll even it out pretty good. All right, so let's reorganize. All right? I want our 2As on that side of the room, and I want our 2Ns on this side of the room.
I wanted to see because I need a charger.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I miss you, best friend. I love you.
I have the most badass condo box.
Sit back here.
Alana doesn't have to move. Right? You're gonna hang with the 2As anyway, just cause?
Finally, really to see someone actually knows.
All right. Here's the deal. I want everyone to get together and using whatever back files or anything else you have and everything like that, as a group, please, all right? And y'all can appoint one person. You can do it by yourself or whatever. Yeah, no, I'm going to do this arbitrarily. I'm going to do people that were in my lab last year. Seneca and Ajay. All right? You're going to be in charge, all right, of being the secretary and or appointing a different secretary. That's one thing that the secretary gets to do. All right? Let's take about 15 minutes and let's come up with the best conditionality bad and conditionality good blocks that we can come up with right now. And those are going to be the starting point, the ground, if you will, for our subsequent discussion. And as a group, we're going to go through and try and fix them. In addition to that, what I would like is I would like for each person in the group to be able to take each of the arguments, one of the arguments rather, each person, I want you to be able to take one argument and push it as far as you can, whatever the argument on your block is, to one of these ends that we've described. How far can you get that argument? To what end can you get it to? And let's try and keep track of where those ends wind up. Because my reason for doing that, I think you're going to find, all right, is that most of the arguments you're going to make on your conditionality good or conditionality bad block are going to be the same argument. And you're just going to rephrase them over and over and over, which we would say is not very word economical. So what we're going to do instead then afterwards, once we do this, write your block first and then see how far you can push stuff, etc. And we're going to do that as a group and whatnot, all right, is we're going to then see if there's a way that we can reformulate our blocks so we can just make each argument we need to make once and not 5 times over and over, and then just win the debate more easily and concisely and not have to spend a bunch of time on it. Take about 15-20 minutes, because Lord knows what.
Does anybody have anything better than this? That's not very
Yeah.
Let's see. Alright, seems legit.
It's the best metal. This is, I was just like,
What color are they?
I don't want to